Dentre os cientistas estrangeiros que costumam vir a Mamiroá fazer as suas pesquisas de campo, o professor Bill Hamilton é certamente um dos mais importantes. Ele é considerado por quase todos os cientistas biólogos como o mais importante pesquisador da evolução, a teoria da evolução de Charles Darwin. O que traz o senhor com tanta frequência a Mamiroá?
Primeiro lugar, é lugar maravilhoso para mim. Muito diferente da Inglaterra e com diversidade enorme em comparação de lugares assim em Inglaterra. Este é lugar único no mundo com o tamanho da enchente que vem aqui. 12 metros de água subindo cada ano e voltando. E sobre tem esta floresta tão diverso e cheio de coisas de interesse.
This ant nest is a good example of a species that seems to be unique to the Várzea here. I'm familiar with this kind of hanging nest in most parts of Brazil, but this one with the hanging leaf-like structures seems to be only found here. I think it's a very good example of a species which is characteristic of the Várzea, very like the dolphin or the manatee in the water, and it's certainly very important for the ecology here. This ant will dominate the surrounding trees, determining everything that feeds on the leaves. It's the sort of thing which makes it very exciting for me to be here. This nest of Aztec ants is particularly interesting to me because it has a nest of wasps living inside it, and this is quite an unusual example of cooperation between two normally hostile species, and I believe it's a defensive combination. Animals that might attack the ant's nest are frightened of the wasp. Animals that might attack the wasp nest are frightened of the ants. Certainly I'm frightened of both. I wouldn't mess with this nest very much. I wouldn't even be standing here if it was a strong nest of wasps. You see there's a wasp there just about to go in. Fortunately, the nest seems to be very weak and therefore is unlikely to attack me. If it was strong, I should not be here. And I believe the ants may treat the wasps as defenders for most of the time, but when they're in real food shortage, as they may be here now because of the flood, they may turn on the wasps and devour them.
Protegendo. This part of the Amazon Valley seems to be one of the centers for floating plants in the world, perhaps the greatest center of all. There are some 40 or so free floating plants here, more than you would find anywhere else. And among them there are plants that, when spread to the rest of the tropics, have become really major pests. Here you can see that a lot of the plants, if you look at them carefully, are damaged by insects, brown with fungi, and there are many natural enemies. But once they escape to another continent, normally those enemies are left behind, and the plants grow so fast without check that they cover dams, waterways, kill fish by covering the surface of the water completely, and so on. And the solution to this problem in several cases has been to come to Brazil to look for the natural enemies here in these floating gardens and then carry them to the country concerned. For example, Australia had a major problem with this small water fern that I holding up here, which literally covered the waterways of the country. They came to Brazil, found a small beetle, took it to Australia, and then the beetle multiplied so rapidly that within about 6 years the problem was finished. This water hyacinth, the one with the glossy green leaves and the bulbs to make it float, that also became a problem in the rest of the tropics. It's a very beautiful plant. I think it was actually taken to Cairo for decoration and from there spread up the Nile, and very shortly it was a major problem in Africa. There's been whole symposia devoted to the control of many of these floating Brazilian plants. But here they're no problem. As you can see, we can move between them quite easily. They're beautiful to see. For me, this is like the center of civilization of floating plants. It's a pleasure to see them in their natural state, all mixed together, forming a little floating ecosystem. I find that here there are good illustrations of several of the evolutionary problems that are occupying me at the moment. For example, the problem of why sex exists, I hope to test with the plants of this environment. I see the plants here as being stressed by two different kinds of agencies. One is the enormous floods that bury them to a depth of 10 or 12 meters every year, and presumably produce a tremendous physical stress on the plant. The other is the tremendous abundance of insect and life of small animals that attack them. And if my ideas about sex are right, the most sexual plants will be those that have most attack from the biotic forces, whereas the plants that just simply have to withstand the physical forces of the flooding, these will tend to be less sexual, and I'm trying to see whether this idea holds up. I'm also very interested in some other evolutionary problems that I think may be illustrated here. For example, for plants there is a big question of whether the main stem of plant evolution is through woody tree-like forms or through smaller kinds of plants. Do trees evolve into small plants more than small plants evolve into trees? I think an unsolved problem of botanical evolution. And I see certain trees here, for example, these cecropias, to me could well be herbs that have rapidly evolved into trees. They seem to be somewhat clumsy as trees. Their branch pattern is very simple. On the other hand, there are many other trees here, for example, the laurels, which look as though they've been trees forever. They're very finely branched, extremely strong woods, as much appreciated by the local people. And so I'm trying to see what sort of situations lead to trees evolving into herbs and what situations lead to herbs evolving into trees.
Assim, tem velhas visitando este flor aberto aqui.
Fecha um pouco.
Not been made. This is a aeroid family Ericaceae, and this is the first time I've seen it in flower, and I wasn't aware that it was so attractive to stingless bees. A little cloud of black bees that was buzzing around up there. Members of this family are very poisonous, and possibly because they're so poisonous they don't have to worry about insects devouring them. I think the small leaves often reflect the fact that the tree has to be prepared to lose a whole leaf because an insect will eat it, whereas there are not many things that will dare to eat it. Normally the sap of this family is extremely caustic. If I were to touch this juice on my tongue, I might have a sore tongue for days afterwards. Usually very, very caustic burning substances in the sap. That's a guess, but that might be why they can manage to have large leaves when most things can't. Those beautiful leaves. Of course, these are beloved all over the world, and often move from an environment like this into offices in posh blocks in New York and London, and cultivated in circumstances that you would hardly guess had any relation to the place where they naturally grow, which is right here. To me, it's always a great thrill to see these plants that I know from London offices and greenhouses in Britain growing in their natural environment. Really wonderful plants. Very wonderful indeed.